Tex, you must have a lot of people coming up and asking you about Anzac Day. What does it mean to you?
Mate, I get a lot of kids come up and ask me, a lot of adults too, but Anzac is Australian New Zealand Army Corps, and it all started when they landed on the shores of Anzac Cove at Gallipoli on the 25th of April 1915. And that was the first time the Australian New Zealand Army Corps had fought as a unit, and it went on from there. Then every year thereafter, they've commemorated those that have served in various wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations, and those that have suffered through the services over that time. So as a veteran, a submarine veteran, the most important thing for me on Anzac Day was that AE2, which was an Australian submarine, an E-class submarine, went through the Marmora Sea in the Dardanelles on the 25th of April 1915, and played quite a large part in playing chaos with Turkish shipping, and served quite well, because they were trying to open up the Dardanelles and make a route through to the Black Sea for the navies to come through, for the Allied navies to come through. However, AE2 was sunk on the 30th of April. She was commanded by Henry Stoker, Captain Henry Stoker, and a 35 crew who all survived and ended up becoming prisoners of war. So it's quite an interesting side that a lot of people don't realise, that Australian submarines played a very important part in Gallipoli in 1915.
I get asked a lot about medals, and I think people get confused if they are actually the veterans' medals or if they're someone else's. You've got a lot of medals there. Can you explain to us what the left and right breasts mean when you're wearing your medals?
Sure. The left-hand side is over the heart, is always to the veterans' medals, whereas any medals worn on the right side indicate that it's been a relative that has probably passed, and you're wearing those out of respect for your relative. In this case, my medals on my right-hand side are for my brother, who passed away in 2021, and this shows my respect to him and my love for him. Mate, I have respect for all servicemen because I know what they've all been through in some way or another, and it doesn't matter if you've done one day in the services or you've done 40 years in services. You put your life on the line and signed on the dotted line, so to fight for Australia. So that's what matters.
Yeah, simple as that.
How do you feel about people coming up and asking you about your service?
I'm always willing to talk to some civilian and give them an insight into service life. And certainly when young kids are coming through and they want to ask, they might want to join one of the services when they leave school. I'm happy to talk to any civvy if they come up and want to have a chat to me about services, but there's some things I won't go near.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll tell them what we can and what we want to tell them about, but they should respect us and not push us and push servicemen further than they want to be pushed. As you said, they shouldn't push people. Dex, what do you think of the practice of not wearing a hat in an RSL?
Well, it's a tradition that goes back as long as I can remember, and it comes back to when we served and everyone else had served. You weren't allowed to wear a hat inboard, like indoors. You know, it's one of those things. If you walked into a mess with your hat on, it'd be knocked off your head real quick, and you'd have to shout the mess.
Yes, I still remember as a very young seaman walking into the office on my first shore posting, and my chief stores mate walking up behind me and knocking my hat across the room, and spending the next 3 nights or 4 nights, I think it was, polishing the deck as a punishment for wearing a hat indoors.
I remember as a young bloke, my old man knocking a hat off my head for sitting down at the meal table with one on. Never ever wore a hat at the meal table since.
Yeah, you never did it, did you? When we were kids, you never wore a hat inside.
With the RSLs, it's been a tradition, but it's also a sign of respect, especially for to our diggers, not to wear a hat indoors. I think that's very important, and respect means a lot.
Agree.